first use case, I think, is probably the most straightforward and the most applicable across the board, across use cases. It's just that kind of company linking experience. So one of the most common things that somebody is going to do in Deal Cloud is either A, create a company, or B, kind of look up a company, enter in the details about that company, so that right from a CRM perspective, these are all things that are in your database. Now, in the old way of doing things, what I would do to create this company, right, is I would say add, I would add my company, then I would fill out all the details in the form, right? And that can be a fairly time-consuming and laborious exercise, right? But really what I want to do and what I'm able to do now with the Data Cortex is as soon as I create a company, I can link it with the data provider that we have subscription to, of course, right? We're talking about S&P Global. So let's see if we find a match. So the first thing I did is I selected an S&P, I clicked that play button and it runs a search to see, hey, do we have this company in the S&P database, right? And in this case, that search came back very quickly and there's only kind of one result. So we have a fairly unique kind of name here. So it's fairly obvious that this is going to be the right match here. But one of the points that I want to make is that one of the fields we expose is this S&P company ID. So as you think about, right, maintaining a clean database and a clean data set, right, it's important to understand those unique identifiers. So if you know what the S&P ID is for a given company, you can easily see what that ID is and making sure that you are linking the proper company. And that's a really critical workflow, right? Because if you link the wrong company, right, obviously we're losing some value and integrity in the database. So maybe, Brandon, I don't know if there's anything that you want to comment here, but obviously a really important point is...
Yeah, Max, it's so good to highlight this. I mean, the one thing that we're also noticing that clients are telling us is that this is actually saving them from duplications in their database. So if Max and I are working together and Max went in to link a company, he'd see the S&P ID there, so he knows he doesn't have to create a new record. He links it automatically. Then if I went and met or found a similar company and was going to put that into the database, that ID would also be there and it would already be linked. So I would know that I wouldn't have to put in another entity into the database. So it keeps the quality and the data integrity of your instance of Deal Cloud as pristine as possible. And then if you were to do any manipulation with the data, you'd obviously have that as a field and you can use that in your workflow if you're doing analysis on the S&P product.
Yeah, that's great. And just to be clear, right, if I do link the wrong company, it's very easy to unlink companies and kind of redo the search. So it's not like, once you do it, you're kind of locked in for good. But it is a really nice indicator to make sure that you're kind of doing things correctly and hopefully preventing you from having to do this multiple times. So I selected the company and I kind of click save there. And what that does is downloads the S&P data and any of the relevant data points. You'll notice now I have this S&P Global Data tab here within my company profile to indicate that there's some data points that came from S&P, right? And now I can kind of see some additional kind of data elements here. So one of the things we talked about was the company data, right? So things like firmographic data, things like website, industry, sector, revenue, employee count, those sort of things, descriptions, right? One of the things I'll highlight, and again, I'm going to keep going back to this point, is it is as if you enter this data yourself. So one of the core use cases in Deal Cloud is kind of using this search box up here to run just like a keyword or a key phrase search. And now, because I have this summary business description, if I typed in tourism and hospitality, right, this company is going to show up under that tourism and hospitality search just by searching the keywords here, right? So again, it's true integration. As if this data was entered myself, right? I can run that search and this data point is going to come back. So it's a really common and effective use case, just kind of running a search on any of this kind of free text or any of these fields or data points that come in through the data cortex.